like your email is your CRM. And like, like my CRM should be able to tell me like, hey, you spoke to Simo about coming on the podcast. That was literally 2 weeks ago. I've written an email to ping him. Do you want me to send that to him on WhatsApp or should I email him? To remind him to come on the podcast. Or you could say like, what was that contract I signed with that placement agent that was raising money for us in the Middle East? Find it for me. And so like AI should be talking to all of your email.
And I would say like not simply talking to all of your emails, but talking to all your source of data. And it includes like WhatsApp messages, it includes LinkedIn messages, and not simply storing this data, but leveraging it to do actions for you proactively, exactly like you say. I think we are switching from an era where software were static, dumb, waiting for a user to do an input in order to react, to an era where software captures your data and do things for you proactively. It will nudge you smartly to follow up with a contact.
Hello and welcome to Fireside with the VC. My name is Andrew Romans, and today I'm with Simo Lemhandez, who is the CEO and founder of Folk, which is honestly a company I've been dreaming of my whole life. One that I kind of wanted to start myself. And so when I heard about Simo, I got very excited and was honored that he let us invest in his round alongside Excel and Venture Forward Capital and some other great VCs. So Simo, great to see you and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Andrew, for having me, and thanks for the kind words. I'm very excited to have you on board and happy to have this chat.
Okay, very, very cool. So Simo, the name of the company is Folk. Maybe tell us about the company and what you guys do.
Absolutely. So I'll start maybe just by sharing a bit more about myself and how I came to found this company. So I was an investment banker and management consultant before. I was working at Morgan Stanley and McKinsey. And at that point in time, I wanted to get my hands into products. So I did a coding boot camp in France named Le Wagon. And in order to hone my skills, I started freelancing and working for a bunch of different clients for which I was doing some basic engineering work. I was maybe managing 2-3 clients and maybe having discussions with 15-20 leads, which is not a lot. And I was managing them all on a Notion database. And at that point, I felt completely lost. Discussions were happening between LinkedIn, WhatsApp, emails, some calls, some phone calls, were live discussions.
And Notion, you said, so Notion was the core CRM
Yes.
you were using. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. And I loved it, and I still love Notion because it's simple, it's flexible, it's beautifully designed, but it's not connected to the tools I use in order to engage with my relationships. And this relationship were the core of my business. They were the raw gold mine I was using in order to make my business move forward. And even at the scale of my single person business, I wasn't able to find a suitable solution. So I started digging into other CRMs like HubSpot or Pipedrive. And I was very, I would say, shocked by the contrast between the revenue these companies were doing and the scale of these businesses and the experience they were providing. That felt very manual, very hard to set up with a lot of friction. So that's the moment where I decided with my co-founders that we wanted to build a new kind of CRM. A CRM that feels simple and beautifully designed, connected to your words and capturing all the context about your relationships. And AI makes us able to do that even further by using all this context and doing more of the work for our users, like if you had a team of assistants working for you. So that's basically what we are doing. We are doing a CRM, we are building a CRM that makes you feel it works for you and not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, you know this, but I was an early Act user when Symantec still owned Act, where it's like running on your laptop. It's not in the cloud, and it only worked on Windows. when I migrated to Mac very long time ago, I actually had to install Windows on my Mac to be able to continue to use Act. And then finally I broke free of that and then just went with Salesforce. And I found Salesforce, it's almost got the word sales in the name. They're trying to sell you on customizations. And so to just get it to do what I wanted, I wasn't just paying for the software. They wanted me to pay like hundreds of thousands of dollars to, customize it. So it's one of the things, I like about Folk is that the customization is like just so easy, and seamless. Also, we're kind of entering a phase where you can pay for like 20 different softwares and they can kind of combine with the APIs that you guys have. So we talk about some of the functions that, works from inside of Folk, like enriching, doing a search, doing sequence outreach, even reminders and bringing different data sets together.
So I completely relate to what you mentioned. And I'd say there is kind of an innovator dilemma for the HubSpot and Pipedrive of this world, because their whole go-to-market strategy relies on having a network of partners that distribute the product for them. And these partners get paid because the implementation is complex, basically. That's where they earn the money. And so it's in the interest of HubSpot and Pipedrive to keep a complex implementation process, because that's what maintain their networks of partners that do distribute the product for them. We have a different approach. We do believe that the tool we use today, and Notion is a good example, we expect them to be able to set up them in minutes, to have very high time to value. We are in a world where attention is scarce, and so as a result, you want to provide your users with like the fastest possible experience. That's the reason why our default interface is the most familiar interface. It's a spreadsheet interface. It reminds you of like Excel, that is probably the most widely used business software. And as a result, users feel very rapidly at home. They know how to add a new column, to customize the tool very easily. It comes with a spreadsheet interface, but it's a very powerful system in the backend that, as you mentioned, comes with a lot of native integrations. You don't have to rebuild them. You are natively integrated to your emails, to your calendar, to your WhatsApp, to LinkedIn, to enrichment tool, to email sequences, and so on. And this is like the second point. It's a very simple interface, but with a lot of power in the backend, with the principle that we want to collapse the number of tools that are used in the sales stack. There are too many tools that a team needs in order to run.
What are some examples, Simo, of what you're collapsing into Folk?
Absolutely. So for example, let's take a standard sales team. They need, in order to be, effective, to have one tool to enrich their contacts. Most of the time, the best practice is to have multiple enrichment providers. And so you will go and need to have like one subscription with each of these enrichment provider. They do most of the time only yearly contracts, and to plug them to, let's say, HubSpot through their API. So you need to be like technically.
In case someone doesn't know, what does it mean to enrich a contact? What does that even mean?
Enriching a contact is finding additional data on this contact, like their phone numbers or their emails, in order to include them in an outreach sequence. If you're a sales team and you need to outreach to some people, to some leads, you might have their LinkedIn profile, you might find them on LinkedIn, but then you need to find their emails, and there are some enrichment databases that help you do that.
So for example, a guy like me, I spent most of my life in Silicon Valley, and in Silicon Valley, it's not like, I don't know, communist Russia. People don't stay 17 years at the same company, right? They move, the company raises venture capital funding, it gets acquired, it gets sold, they stay for a lockup of 6 months, 2 years, maybe nothing. And then the email address I have is no good anymore. So I've got like first name, last name, and email. And if I want to contact that person about come to my event, I'm putting on a party in Dallas, New York, San Francisco, they don't receive the email me because it wasn't enriched, right?
Exactly.
So it's incredibly important.
It's incredibly important in order just to be able to find the right phone number of emails of people you would like to reach out to. And even more, if you need to do that in bulk, let's say you want to reach out to 200 people, it will be a real nightmare to try to find their emails manually. So you have databases that help you do that, that do that for you. But each database won't cover the whole market of leads. So the best practice is to combine a few databases. So to enlarge the set of data that you are looking at when you try to enrich some profiles. So the best practice in sales is to do what we call waterfall enrichment. I look in the first database. If I don't find, I will look in the second database. If I don't find, I will look in the third, and so on. And so if you want to set up that for your sales team, you'll have to go and take a subscription with multiple enrichment providers and set up this waterfall system and connect it to your CRM. And you need to be technical to do that.
They're charging you per enrichment, and it kind of feels expensive when you're doing it. And you're like, should I really bother or not? By the way, Simo, I never told you this, but when Reid Hoffman was still CEO of LinkedIn, I was so frustrated with Salesforce. Like, I've really always been frustrated user coming out of ACT. And I said to Reid, we were like back and forth late night saying, you know, Reid, if you look at the multiple Benioff is getting on his revenue by Wall Street, it's like 12x. Whereas if you look at the multiple of the revenue you're getting on LinkedIn with your ads and headhunting and stuff, it's like 4x. If everybody hates Salesforce, everybody loves LinkedIn, shouldn't like the user-generated content of LinkedIn be the CRM? Like if I lose contact with Simo, he updates his LinkedIn with his latest, where do I work? Did I move to the south of France? Did I move to New York? You know, that let every user update their contact record in your CRM would be perfect. So why don't you just slowly add notes and slowly add the functionality of a top Salesforce CRM and offer it free for a while, and then say you got to pay for it. And you got to basic features, then you got to pay for it. And you'll eventually get to 12x revenue, and you'll be a category killer. Because who could compete with the user-generated LinkedIn CRM? And at the time, I was like, why isn't he doing it? And then he's like, you know, I think I'm moving into venture capital. And I'm basically selling LinkedIn to Microsoft. And so he was kind of ready. He was kind of like, it's done. You know, but to me, that was the vision of the global dominator, world-beating CRM company could have been LinkedIn.
I completely agree here. And like there is like a gold mine on data sitting on LinkedIn. The only challenge that I would say for them is that today, the way we sell, the way we approach relationship is very much multi-channel. Like you tend to chat with someone through emails, through calls, through LinkedIn, through WhatsApp, through text. And LinkedIn captures a very important part of this data, which is LinkedIn data. But in order to have a complete view and complete understanding of our relationship, you need to combine all these channels. But in any case,
which, by the way, I think that is the holy grail, right? Like your email is your CRM, and like, you know, like my CRM should be able to tell me like, hey, you spoke to Simo about coming on the podcast. That was literally 2 weeks ago. I've written an email to ping him. Do you want me to send that to him on WhatsApp, or should I email him? You know, to remind him to come on the podcast. You know. Or you could say, like, what was that contract I signed with that placement agent that was raising money for us in the Middle East? Find it for me. You know, and so like AI should be talking to all of your email. You know.
And I would say like not simply talking to all of your emails, but talking to all your source of data. And it includes like WhatsApp messages. It includes LinkedIn messages. And not simply storing this data, but leveraging it to do actions for you proactively, exactly like you say. I think we are switching from an era where software were static, dump, waiting for a user to do an input in order to react, to an era where software captures your data and do things for you proactively. It will nudge you smartly to follow up with a contact. It will
So I think this is one of the most exciting things. And so I really want to like land there, but I sort of interrupted you along the way. So enriching your contact data, that's a key thing. And you're not just going with, you know, one source of truth. You're waterfalling into getting a 360 on that. And it's incredibly valuable. You make all this effort to have dinner with somebody and do them favors. You don't want to lose touch because you have a bad email address and you don't know that they just bought a house right next door to you and they're changing location. What other things have you integrated that are like multiple providers into one?
Completely. So another example is when you use a CRM, you need an email sequencing tool that sits next to the CRM. For example, Outreach, Apollo, Lemlist. People are using a bunch of these different solutions. And you'll try to like connect the CRM and the sequencing tool together to keep them in sync. And when a lead replies in your sequencing tool, you'll create an opportunity in your CRM, and you'll pay for both tools at the same time, and you'll have your sales team need to learn how to use both tools at the same time. While when we thought about it from first principle, there is really not any reason why the tool where you manage your active conversation and your active deals, and the tools where you create you turn leads into deals should be two different tools. And so we simply make it super easy on Folk to start an email sequence. And whenever someone replies to you, the contact is already here. All the emails and LinkedIn and WhatsApp with this contact are already synchronized, and you can move it through a pipeline. And you don't need an email sequencing tool you pay for on top of your CRM. So that's a second example. A third example is lead sourcing. When you try to source lead, for example, from LinkedIn or from Sales Navigator, teams will tend to buy some plugins, some Chrome extension, for example, surf.com or Apollo, that help you capture leads from LinkedIn and add them to your CRM. And you have to pay for this tool as well, and you have to connect it to the CRM through API. We do offer that natively as well, no additional cost. We have a Chrome extension that lets you add contact from LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Gmail, WhatsApp, any company website, individual profiles, companies, or profiles in bulk through a search, and you can directly add them to the system. And if we mix the three elements that we mentioned, so you can source leads, enrich them, and start a sequence with them directly from the system, and then put them in a pipeline. So,
but even like sometimes it happens to me. Like I call this database discipline. That I talk to somebody, they make an introduction on WhatsApp or maybe LinkedIn or very commonly email. I know I'm corresponding with that person, but I failed to have the database discipline to find the time to actually create the database record in my CRM. And with Raoul Vora from Superhuman, I always said, I think you should do for CRM what you've done for email. And the two should be connected, because I should be able to receive, somebody introduces me to Simo, I should be able to one click create and populate a database field. And it does what Rapportive did, Raoul's previous company, and it goes out and finds your Twitter, it finds your LinkedIn, and it populates all those fields for me. So I should be able to kind of one click, pull that over. And you guys are doing that from not just LinkedIn and Gmail, but like other sources, which I think is like just so much better for your database discipline, because there's very important people that I'm like, I've got to dig around and find how to get in touch with them because I never got them into my Salesforce.
And I would say that I really like the term that you used, that is database discipline. And I do believe that in the future that we envision is that the discipline shouldn't be on the user. The tool should help you to get there, basically. And so that's the reason, for example, on Gmail, whenever you interact with someone, the contact is created automatically in the system. And you can consult it then from Gmail with our Chrome extension. But the discipline isn't on you. The tool is set on autopilot to capture the data that you'll need in the future. And I do believe that it changes the script. We are not using tools that forces us their way and that put the burden of maintaining them on the users. We are creating a tool that captures your data on your behalf and use it to do stuff for you. If we get back to the history of CRM, the reason CRM were created was to help executives track the sales folks and making sure they do the inputs, they do the reps. And sales folks needed to input the CRM manually so that these executives can have their reporting. That's the reason why CRM were created initially. So they weren't created to make salespeople better at their job. They weren't created to help salespeople on the ground. They were created just to track them, to monitor them. I do believe in our words, we can have a different view and basically create a CRM that will provide you with the analytics and the nice chart, but we'll do that out of the box because we are just connected to everything, to your emails, to your LinkedIn. And so you'll have all the analytics to track the business. But on top of that, sales folks, we want to make them better at their work because we have all this data and that we can use it proactively to suggest them the next best action. So I think it changes completely the philosophy of the CRM. It's not a CRM to track you, it's a CRM to empower you.
Yeah. And what are some of the systems where folk is, tracking data? I mean, you're directly linked in with LinkedIn. That's obvious. You've mentioned a few already. So email.
So all the different email platforms like Gmail or Outlook, calendars, so Google Calendar and Outlook Calendar, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, WhatsApp and WhatsApp Business, all the different enrichment providers. We have 6 different enrichment providers that are connected to the platform, like People Data Labs, Apollo, Prospeo, among others. And then we have some point solutions that are needed by sales team. For example, tools for calling, like we're connected to a tool that is named Crisp Call or a tool that is named Allo. For example, tools for sending invoicing or contract, we are connected to PandaDoc. And we have an API that you can afterwards connect to anything or use Zapier /Make that are automation tool to automate anything. We really think a good CRM should be open as much as it can be because it's as good as the data that you have in the system.
What's your view of like AI note takers for Zoom, Google Meets, or Microsoft Meetings, and even like if you're meeting somebody in a conference room or a cafe?
I think there is a gold mine of data in our conversations. There is a gold mine of data and of intel and of that happen in the discussion we have, and that this data should be obviously captured in the CRM. And I do think that there are multiple ways to approach it. I'm personally not a fan of the bots that comes into a Zoom meetings, and it feels like a thing that won't stay for a very long future. I would expect that data to be captured through API and to be more respectful of the meeting and of the audience and to be more transparent. Basically, it doesn't feel that a thing that will perdure over time to have as much participant to a meeting as you have like meeting bots. That said, it's mission critical for a CRM to capture this data. And we are working on a few integrations to help surface both, I would say, data from Zoom calls or Google Meet calls, but also even more importantly, data that happen in real life meetings.
Okay, and Simo, I know we're running out of time. What is the persona of the one-man band, lone wolf to large organization with thousands of employees? What kind of organization do you think are the ones that should be adopting Folk right now?
Absolutely. So, first thing is we are building for relationship-centric folks, people that do need and care about relationship in order to move their business forward. What we see in the data is we have a bunch of different persona that end up benefiting from the system, and it includes service businesses like agencies, consulting firms, venture capital and private equity, and B2B startups. These are the 3 main, I'd say, kind of players. But we also see, honestly, a wide variety of random organizations using the software because they do need to manage relationship as part of their business. And this is also quite exciting to me to see like an NGO in Indonesia that manage their donor base in our system. But the core of our users are service business, startups, and financial players like VC, private equity. And our core team is to say that these people are relationship centric, and we want them to spend their time on relationships, on meeting people, and actually connecting with them, looking at each other in the eyes, deciding to do a partnership, to do a deal, and because a machine will never perform better than a human on creating trust. And so for these people to spend all their time connecting with other people, we need to manage everything on the back end. We need to be the system that do all the cores, like updating the CRM, suggesting when to follow up, doing the research, and so on. And so that's basically our mission.
Okay, and as we close out, how does the trial work? And so somebody can export their data from HubSpot, they can export out of Salesforce and get like, what is it, a week? I forget what it is. How does the trial work?
Absolutely. You can just go on Folk.app, FOLK.app, and start a 2-week free trial.
2-week trial.
Yeah, you can import data from anywhere. We even can set you up with the team if that's helpful to support on the migration. And yeah, looking forward to hear your thoughts. But I'm pretty confident if you come from the old school CRM, you'll feel a bunch of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to work with products and startups that are AI native as well. So rather than, almost anything built today is going to be what was built a few years ago. And so I have to say, as a CRM junkie, I've really, really enjoyed, I just feel more zen and good. It reminds me a lot of Superhuman and going those directions that Superhuman was probably going to go in before they got acquired by Grammarly. So Simo, I'll let you go. Great to see you. And send me whatever you need and I'll put it in the show notes so people can connect.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you for the time. I really enjoyed the discussion.
Okay, bye for now. See you soon.
Ciao, ciao.